Peer observation can occur in a number of ways, and what we can consider is that it doesn't just have to be with two people, it can be with more. But with two people involved in this process of observation, it's important to agree to act as observer and the one being observed, and to share these two roles. We can also consider observation in terms of a number of people observing. For example, there could be three teachers, three reflective practitioners, engage in a process of observing each other, and we call this a peer observation circus. This is where colleague A would observe colleague B would observe colleague C, and colleague C would observe colleague A. And this can go around the group continually and can even reverse order, so that all participants are observed by each other. And in this way, it not only builds a sense of teamwork, but it does mean that an individual gets observed by two different practitioners. And of course, where you have more practitioners involved in a peer observation circle, you get much more feedback from different perspectives. And so when you are the observer in this process, you need to make sure that you discuss all aspects of the activity with the person being observed, and ensure that feedback is structured around this and provides the sense of exploration that the observed needs. It should be very efficient and not be too time consuming, and should be very clear in terms of instructional value. During observation, it's important not to be distracted by things which were not intended to be observed. Observation should be focused on particular areas, and so as an observer, you need to make sure that you're focusing on those. And for example, it could be looking at teaching strategies and rather than resources. So you should also then allow in the debriefing from an observation for the person being observed to comment and to give their own feedback before you give your feedback. And the focus then can be on the behavior of the person in the classroom rather than products or artifacts which are being used in the classroom. And in terms of feedback, it's very important that the observer follows a very simple strategy, and that is that it should be clear and owned, balanced, brief and specific, in the sense that feedback needs to be clear, otherwise it's not useful, it's confusing. It needs to be owned by the observer, or in other words, it's only their point of view, their reflection on what they're seeing. It needs to be balanced, or in other words, both positive and constructive. And it should be brief. Any feedback which takes too long starts to lose value. And then, of course, it should be specific. Any observation should focus on particular aspects of teaching rather than the general approach to teaching. And the important thing to remember is for you as an observer to give feedback as soon as possible after the observation. Otherwise, any feedback you give can lose its sense of urgency, and it makes it very difficult for the observer to make connections between what is your experience and their experience in the classroom. And what you want to do in terms of giving feedback is to prioritize your comments. Focus first of all on what is most important, and then work down from there to what is not so important. And this gives a much better focus to the feedback from observation.